Alright, I guess I'm going first. This is basically to everyone. Fossil fuels are so integrated in today's society. So why isn't it more efficient to just improve on our use of fossil fuels instead of just trying something new and doing alternative energies? Considering like all the all like the downsides to doing alternative energy and all the startups that there is to alternative energy.
No, Marlon, that's a good question. Hey, on the panelists, if you guys want, whoever wants to do a question, if you raise your hand, I'll call on you. That'll avoid the cutting out where we're talking over each other. So, anybody want to go for that one? Why the hell do we need renewables? Let's just make
That's
fossils better.
that's a big one. Do you guys want to start that? And
I'm happy to take a crack at it, and I think it aligned very closely to what I mentioned what the Department of Defense is doing. And to beg the question of why is the Department of Defense investing in renewable energy, both transportation fuels and on installations for solar and other storage technologies, and it's twofold. It's a huge cost issue, and most people don't know the U.S. Department of Defense is the largest consumer of energy in the world, and we all pay for it in our tax dollars, right? So when it's a fixed cost that there's no additional funds coming to the U.S. government, and there's additional sequestration coming to the Department of Defense. The department sees it clearly as an opportunity for innovation, and the Department of Defense has done this in the past. They've shifted from coal to sail and sail to nuclear in the past in the naval fleet. So if you look at that in the rest of the U.S. context, there are clear commercial opportunities to make that switch, but it's very, very hard to do so. There are incumbent industries like the auto and the oil industry that make a lot of money and make it very hard to change rules and to allow the incentives to be sustained to move forward the renewable energy industry. And we see the same on the electricity side. All of our utilities are formerly monopolistic and very hard to change the rules to allow for new technologies. But there's companies out there like the ones we've all mentioned here that are working tirelessly to create opportunities and to show the economic benefit and the strategic opportunities to make those switches. So it's an incremental fight, and it takes committed efforts by firms like Canadian Solar, like Vaisala, DMI, and others to drive that forward. And it takes the commitment of students like yourselves to make that choice to come into this industry versus others. And I think it's definitely an industry you want to join.
This is a good question, right? I mean, it's we're sort of starting with the notion here of renewable energy is the way to go, but it's good to step back and why. That's an outstanding perspective. Rashawn or Nikki, you want to take a swing at it?
I guess I will comment on it a bit too. Is just it's definitely something that there are so many rules and regulations, and you're seeing some countries doing it better than others, and that's especially what's affecting affecting the renewable jobs in the U.S. right now. Is just that there are so many things that can block a project from going forward, and it is an extreme cost on a lot of these renewable technologies right now, that if there aren't enough people supporting it, that you are hindered, but you shouldn't let it stop you from moving forward, that it is important to diversify in the type of energy that we have in this world, because it's renewable energy is really going to be all that we have in the end. We can't be using all of these fossil fuels and everything forever. That will disappear, and we need to be thinking about really creating a better world in the end. So it is very important to kind of have a global outlook when you're joining the renewable energy area, because there are some countries that are moving forward much quicker than the U.S. The U.S. right now is kind of stuck, especially in the wind industry right now. So you need to keep that in mind as well.
Excellent.
yeah, and, as the efficiency guy here, efficiency is great. It helps in terms of both cost and the environmental impact of using any type of energy. But there's really only so much efficiency can do, and even if we made everything as efficient as it could be and still stuck with fossil fuels, we'd still continue to use them at a faster rate than they're being recreated. So in terms of both cost and again environmental impact, you have to do both. It's not really it's not an either or situation. You combine efficiency with renewables, and then you don't have to produce as much capacity from renewables, which lowers any of the negative impacts that might have as well.
Marlon, it was a great question. I hope I hope some of these answers are helpful to you. One thing I'm just going to throw in there very quickly is I always enjoy listening to the financial guys talk about renewables. You know, whether it's Goldman Sachs or some of the other the private equity guys. And one of the things what they would answer to your question is why get behind renewables versus simply ride fossils and make fossils better, is they love the future cost curve of renewables. And that is because, you know, whether it's electricity or whether it's fuel, transportation fuel, when you look at renewables, the majority of the cost is based on technology. It's not based on a commodity that's subject to scarcity and spikes and shocks, market shocks. And what they love about a fuel being based on technology is if you look at the long-term cost curve of any technology, just think of flat screen TVs, cell phones, whatever, it just goes down over time. It just keeps going down and down and down. And so they look at the mid and the long term of cost curves of renewables, and they're very excited because they're saying, you know, it just makes all the sense in the world. Whereas fossil fuels are stable, if not going up. And, you know, obviously now you got some things going on with fracking and horizontal drilling that are lowering the cost of nat gas and you know, oil from tight oil and that kind of stuff. But they will tell you midterm, long run, that's just not going to hold. So there's one other log to throw on the fire, but that's our first question. Who's Adria, Makamba, Trey? Who's got the next question?